Hi everyone. Thank you for watching. By law, I have to tell you that this is for entertainment purposes only. All videos are property of Psychic Liz Cross, LLC. Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Mr. Reality and Psychic Medium Liz Cross. Liz, how are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm so excited to speak to Our Lady here.
By popular request, another old-time photo of which I know nothing about. This comes from the New York Public Library digital collections of a woman from Alabama taken in 1938, where she looks pretty old in this picture. I wonder if you could bring her forth and have her tell us about her life, her struggles, her later in life.
Yes, I have her here. She is so sweet. She has such a nice energy about her. She's just really, really kind.
What's she wearing?
She's wearing her Sunday best, she says. She's in a lovely floral dress. She says, I made it myself. She used to make her own clothes.
And this image, can she tell us about this?
The image, can you tell? Yes, that was taken by who was this photo taken by? This photo was taken by a photographer, but he also was a landowner and he wanted to document a lot of history. Now, she definitely had a big memory. She could remember everything. I mean, that was one of the things about her that was so fascinating. She knew everybody's name. She knew when people moved in, people moved out, who died, who belonged to who. You know what I mean? Who was born into what? Now she was born into slavery.
So she looks like she's 80 or 90 here. Was she alive during the this Civil War? It took place in the mid 1800s in America.
Were you alive during the Civil War? She was just born.
And so
She was just born.
how did her life of slavery affect her? What happened? What did she do? At what age did she start working?
Did you have to work she did, as a toddler, practically as a toddler in the fields. Yes. What were you doing? She was picking cotton.
And how many other siblings did she have?
Oh, how many? About nine.
Was she close to them?
Very.
And what was learning like, education like? How did she get that on the plantation that she was at and growing up?
She was on a very large plantation. And how did you, and there was no education. There was just Bible study, um, songs, gospel. There was no, did you ever learn how to read and write? She did not know how to read and write. They weren't supposed to be educated. They were just there to work. Now, she is saying the slave owners that she was born into were much nicer than most because they didn't sell the children. Gosh, they would allow the families to stay together and that they knew that the children would be put to work. They did provide medical care. They would have a doctor come and see if they were fit and give them medical care. They did eat well, she says, compared to a lot of other plantations and slave owners. They also grew a lot of their own food. They cooked a lot of their own food. Um, did the plantation, like if they were having a meal cooked for them, would they have a meal cooked for you? And she says no. They would have to cook their own meals, but often the people that worked in the kitchen would also come and cook for us in the evening.
And how many did she have previous lifetimes as a slave?
Ooh, did you have previous lifetime? Yes,
And so
three.
was that on the same plantation or was that in a different like zone of the North America or was that in a different country?
That was in the Middle East.
And those were preceding your lifetime here in Alabama?
Yes, yes, she was enslaved in the Middle East and North Africa.
Do you always incarnate in the same genetic line or do you switch?
No, she's always in the same line. She would never leave her soul family.
So that line came from the Middle East. Were those like sub-Saharan African slaves as well? And then you moved to I'm trying to figure out like we look at the boat transportation of slaves. I want to figure out the like genetic lineage, soul migration of slavery from your point of view.
So for her, she's saying that she has previous lives in the Congo area, and there were a lot of migration lifetimes where they were captured and enslaved. They died as slaves. I'm talking about the Soul family, and they would keep reincarnating back into slavery. And then the family migrated, was it over to West Africa? She was also enslaved in around the Middle East, but eventually they were migrating or sold, actually, sold over into like West Africa. And then she had a few lifetimes there, and then they were bought and transported to the US. That's what she's saying with the Soul family.
So she was a West African slave in the Middle East.
Well, it depends what lifetime you're talking about. So there's a few lifetimes of slavery.
I'm just trying to look at the genetic path and see, did your family live and die in the Middle East, and then that same family or that same brother and sister cousin line get purchased and then sent to North America?
So the family in the Middle East, did you die in the Middle East? Yes, they died, and then they came back in, and then they were captured and sold. You were captured and sold, and eventually made it over to West Africa. Died in West, came back around again, captured, sold, and sent to the US.
So tell us about your highlights in this lifetime here in Alabama.
Mm. Well, the highlights were that she saw the good in things. She always stayed positive. She always treated people with kindness and respect. She was still able to love everyone, even though things were bad. She feels very privileged to be in a soul family that she was in and that they stayed together. She outlived most of her siblings. She was actually the final sibling left. Were you the youngest? She was second to the youngest.
How long did she live in this lifetime here?
Oh, she made it up to 100.
From her point of view, how do you maintain positivity, with all the struggles that you face through life, through slavery, through growing up in poverty?
Hmm. How did you maintain being positive? Through the gospel. That was the only thing that gave everyone hope. I mean, you would have to have some really strong faith to feel positive about the situation. And she says we did. And the singing and the laughter and the sticking together and code. They spoke in code words so that the plantation owners, nobody would know what they were talking about. Now, were you a slave for very long? I mean, she was a slave for a good how many years? 5 years. I mean, she remembers it. She does. What happened after you were freed? She says, we weren't really freed. We were still practically enslaved. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, we were supposed to be free, but then why do you say that you were still, because they still had to work for a living. They just stayed there working and got paid very, very little money, but they weren't owned anymore. They were free to go and work somewhere else, but there was nowhere else to go. I mean, she says their particular plantation, again, they weren't cruel like some of the other ones. Like you could still be an employee somewhere else and you could still be beaten, have things thrown at you, be mistreated, not paid, go missing. They didn't want that. So they stayed where they were.
What was her family life like on the plantation growing up? Like with her brothers and sisters, with her mother, father? Did she know them? Aunts, uncles?
Oh yeah, they had a very large family. What was the I mean, she feels very blessed in her own words to be able to stay together. Now, some of her family members, did they get killed? Some of them were killed. Some of them tried to run away. What else can you tell me?
Were they killed in accidents or were they killed deliberately? And how and which one of her ancestors or family members were killed?
Deliberately. Um, and how were they killed? They were killed by like lynch mobs and things like that. Um, and the slave owners, she says, would be threatened frequently for being too kind.
Really? Oh,
Yeah. She said that they would be threatened and belittled, and they did try to treat them with kindness. They had medical care. Most plantations, if you got sick or there was a problem, they just, she says, take you out back and shoot you. You just get rid of the problem.
oh.
I know. I want to ask her, are you ever going to have a slavery lifetime? She goes, I hope not. Do you think that you've had enough slavery lifetimes to that you learned a big lesson? Oh, yes, yes. And what was the purpose of the Soul family having those slave? Well, she says it was training. What do you mean training? Yeah. See, now I've heard this before from souls where they they go into these lifetimes. Well, first of all, it was, what was going on in the time period, right? And they needed mass signups to what was going on in the time period. And they signed up because they're saying that the Soul family had to be compliant. Now we found this before. Compliant with what? Compliant with the system, the universal consciousness. It was a way to, you know, get all this, wanting to run away, break free from the, you have to play the game. We find this over and over. Now, those of us in the CTT group, we're trying to find ways to play the game better and more effectively and with a better understanding, and also trying to instill some accountability in the spirit world against the advisors that are giving bad advice, and accountability within the souls that keep picking these lifetimes out for us, and then us on the conscious mind level have to suffer. But yeah, I mean, she says she's not going back into another slave lifetime. They've learned that lesson.
And how many incarnations has she had as a human being?
400.
Of her human incarnations, which ones were the most shaping of her soul identity?
The tribal lifetimes, especially nomadic tribal lifetimes, where everybody has to stick together. Everybody has to be as one. We all have to take care of one another. That's what she loves. She is a natural caretaker soul, right? We all stick together. We're all in this together. If you find a bit of food, we share it between us. Those were very shaping for her because she says it made her understand that that was the role that she wanted to play. That of
Do you always incarnate in the same race?
No, not necessarily. I mean, African race, and then there were some, were you Arab, North African, Arab, and then back to the African race. What about your next lifetime coming in? What? They're going into an Asian family the next lifetime in the US. In the US, yes, in the US, but they're coming in into an Asian family.
And so, how do you facilitate that? Are there groups over there that say, well, if you're an African American and you want to be an Asian American, here's the hurdles and jumps that you need to go through in order to get in that genetic line? Is there like a training course you go through?
No, that was a good question. Like, how do we evolve? And that goes for anybody. Like, how do we
I'm not saying
evolve?
this, we're not saying this is evolution of the soul in any way, but we're just asking that question to try and figure out how it works, you know?
Yeah, like, how do you evolve from being a nomadic tribesman in Africa into like a white European, or maybe like how they're saying now they're going to evolve into an Asian family or certainly an Asian influence, and that's they're saying they're doing it through intermarriage and it's just going to work that way. They want to try their hand at that for a while. They, they're very experimental. This soul family, it's quite large. They're very experimental. Have you tried any European or Russian or any other race? They have. I mean, they're thinking about Russian. I knew that they were saying because she said Russian to me. So if that doesn't work out in the US, they said maybe we'll try to maybe think about a Russian lifetime. They're just trying
Like,
to find
what are you trying to gain by that switch? What do you feel you're going to get out of an Asian lifetime that you didn't get from another? I mean, we know that there was a slavery and a horrible lifetime, but like what are you trying to do evolutionary of the soul wise?
what are you trying to do? Why? Just have different experiences. The Asian experiences are very different to Black experiences or Native American experiences, she said, or, white American experiences.
That's the
They,
process, but like what are you hoping to gain? Just different experiences, or is it like a progression of the soul?
no, it really is just different experiences. I mean, they don't know yet. She says, I don't know. It's just something we're think